How to say no gracefully before you get truly fed up. You are now listening to the Teach Well podcast, Season 1, Episode 4. Previously on our last episode, if it was some new request from the principal, they needed me to do something, I would just jump and do it. And pretty soon I felt so overwhelmed because I kept saying yes to everything. I kept exploring everything. I kept trying everything, and I just got dizzy. If it's not worth the trade-off, then you need to work around it. Welcome to the Teach Well podcast, where we passionately educate, encourage, and discuss the wellness of our nation's most valuable resource, our educators. I am your host, MJ, and I'll be leading us on this journey of prosperity. We'll learn how to improve our finances, get rid of stress, and maintain a healthy lifestyle. So stay tuned and join our community as we find peace, work-life balance, and dare to make ourselves a priority. Because in order to teach well, we must be well. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Teach Well podcast. I'm MJ, your host, and we have a lot to talk about today. But before we get started, how are you? Have you taken stock? Have you reflected today? How are you doing really? You matter, and how you feel today matters to me. I would love to hear from you. Feel free to leave a comment, send me a message. Oh yeah, and don't forget to subscribe or listen or like, however you're listening to us today. Make sure you set it up so that you can know when we drop our next episode. We are a community, and I believe in this message of teacher wellness, and I know you do too, and I don't want you to miss another episode. So our brothers and sisters out in LA are fighting for their wellness. Have you heard about the LA strike? Well, I live in California, and that's all we are talking about. We are so proud of our brothers and sisters who are fighting for us nationally. These concerns that they're fighting for are concerns that I hear from coast to coast. Lack of supplies, more demands on our time, the need for nurses and instructional assistants, and all those things. Yes, we need those things. I am so proud of you. I saw some of you standing in the rain with your signs, and that rain was tough. And you stood there and you marched, and you did it for us, you did it for yourself, and you did it for the children. I cannot be more proud of you. Keep it up. We are with you. Strike, strike, strike. Of course, no one really wants to go on strike. So what was the trigger? What caused everyone to get to the place where they were willing to walk out of their job? I've been thinking about that all week, and I know that lots of us are somewhere in the realm of the LA teachers. You know, we are just getting tired of it. We're getting closer and closer to demanding the rights that we deserve. But in the meantime, what can we do? So this leads me to our topic of the week: how to say no before we get truly fed up. So today I was at work, and I have a good friend who is a long-term sub. She subs for pretty much all the teachers at the school. And I have a teacher friend who is out on maternity leave. So she's been subbing in her class for about 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. When I was dropping the kids off at the cafeteria, I noticed she was red in the face, and she was breathing hard and just looking all out of sorts. So I asked her, what was going on? Was she okay? And she looked like she was about to cry. She was so upset. She started to tell me that the principal came to her and told her that she missed giving the students an assessment, and the assessment was due today. And she was demanding that she give the students the assessment, which isn't hard if you think about, say, 11th grade, 10th grade, 9th grade, even 5th grade. But this was a kindergarten class, and this particular assessment you had to give one-on-one, which is time consuming. And it takes a little bit of skill because you have to have something for those babies to do. To top it off, the kids had won a prize for coming to school all week because we had a lot of rain, and there was like this attendance award. And if the kids came to school all week, they can go to watch a movie, eat popcorn, and hang out with the principal in the cafeteria. And her kids did really well. They came all week, and if she gave the assessment and she wasn't finished in a certain amount of time, the principal said the kids could not attend the movie party. In all honesty, I couldn't understand why she was so upset. Just say no. I thought, you're a sub, you're not on contract, you don't have to do it, or you can ask for help. There's so many things that she could have done, but she thought it was her responsibility. She wanted to be a team player, and she thought that was a sign of being professional. And this lady looked like she was clearly about to lose it. It got me thinking. How many times do we respond that way? Unable or unwilling to say no? Is it even okay to say no to our administration? Is it right? Is it being professional to always say yes and to fill in where we can? Let's unpack that. What are some reasons we don't say no to our administrator? One of them, I believe, is because of our reputation. We like to be known as someone that fills in, a team player. We don't want to be known as that teacher that never helps out, that only does their job in their classroom and runs out the gate with their purse. A lot of people think saying no is disrespectful. Is it disrespectful to say no to your administrator? Saying no to your principal could lead to you missing out on opportunities for your kids to go on field trips, opportunities to participate in professional development, opportunity for extra work and assignment. And some of us just want to stay under the radar. Let's be real. We don't want to rock the boat. We don't want attention on us. If we can do this really quickly and quietly, we will. So where do you land? Do you think it's okay? If you don't say no to your administrator, ask yourself why not. This is what I observe happens when we never say no. We just go with the flow. First of all, a lot of us feel bullied. As soon as we say yes, we go back to our peers and we talk about how unfair everything is and all this work that the principal is putting on us. And a lot of times we don't even feel empowered enough to recognize that we do have a choice. And if you don't know how to communicate no gracefully, then keep listening and I'll give you some tips on how to do that. The second thing I noticed about when people fail to say no is you become the go-to person. Whether you want to or not, you are going to get additional requests. And it's not because people want to put more on you. They think that that's what you like. That's what you want. And why wouldn't they? Because you've never said otherwise. We've all seen that person on campus. They're tired. They look tired. They are quiet. They're running around. They're stressed. They're trying to handle everything. Their hands are in every bucket. And if you talk to them privately, a lot of times they'll let you know that they don't want to do half of it. They feel like no one else is going to step up, or they feel like they can't say no now because people are depending on them. But what about their own health? What about your own feelings? What about your own happiness and your own stress-free living? You matter. You are important. And it's okay to say no. So if you're going to start saying no to requests, you have to understand that you don't do this randomly just because you don't feel like it. There is a time to pitch in, but who decides when that time comes is you. You need to know what your goals are, what you are focusing on for the year, what your time is like, and what your priorities are before you even begin to say no. If you can fit it in your schedule, it doesn't hurt you physically, it doesn't hurt you mentally, and you want to do it, go right ahead. But if it's something that's going to stress you out, you think is not worth your time, then you need to think about it. Here are 3 things to think about. It's a good time to say no when it hinders your responsibilities. In other words, when it's not in your job description. So if someone wants you to write a board report or something like that, that's administrative. Someone wants you to lead a fundraising activity, that is an option for you, not part of your job. It's a good time to think about whether or not you want to do it. Another time to consider saying no is when it just doesn't align with your must-dos. We all have things that we have to get done. And sometimes saying yes to one more thing can just crack that schedule. And it's not worth giving up the priority item to focus on something else. So that's a good time to consider maybe bowing out. Another time to think about it is when you just don't agree with it, or it's going to be a distraction from something else. And the last thing to consider is if you really can deliver. A lot of times I see people saying yes to participating and leading things they don't even know how to do. They're stressed, and if it was passed on to someone else, they can do it in a day. But because you don't even have experience doing this thing, it's going to take you a time to just figure out how to do it. It might take you 3 weeks. But let's be real. Saying no is very awkward and can be very scary. But remember, saying no may be awkward for a day or two, but saying yes to something can be hard for months to come. So how do we do this? Okay, first thing to remember is that it's better to just come out and say no than to just hem and haw and not give people a clear answer. Now that is disrespectful. People are waiting for you because they have to get things done, and you are just leading them on, or you say yes to something knowing you clearly are not going to do it. So when we say no in education, there are 2 things to think about. Number 1, do we clearly have an option? We do have an option when it's not in our job spec and they're asking us to do things that are not required of us as teachers. But sometimes we don't really have a clear option to come right out and say no. So I'm going to call them half no's, just for the sake of this podcast. So we're going to talk about how to say no and how to say a half no. So let's begin with the no's, shall we? The first one we'll do is an easy one. I call it an I can't no. It's when you say something like this: I can't, but Miss So-and-so may be interested. An example, imagine that your principal came up to you and asked you to direct the Christmas play, and you don't have the slightest idea on how to direct one, or maybe you just don't have the time. But you remember that Mr. Grant directed the Christmas play 2 years ago. You can respond, I can't, but Mr. Grant might be interested. It's still a no, but it's a no said gracefully, and it's a no said truthfully. The second no I call the gracious no. It begins by letting people know that you are thankful that they think that you are a good prospect to lead something. An example, if you're asked to lead the PTA meeting or to monitor the money at a fundraiser, you can respond, I am so flattered that you thought of me, but I couldn't do it and keep my current schedule. I have a lot of big items coming up. This is one of the least awkward no's that I practice. The third way is with good old technology. You can create bounce back text messages, cell phone messages, or email bounce back messages that talk about the times that you are available to respond. This is especially useful if you have a boss that sends requests to your cell phone or via email. A simple message like, "I'm sorry I missed your call. I'm unable to return any calls between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. due to my commitment to family time." I have found that this is the easiest no because it doesn't require face-to-face communication, and people seem to get it when they get that email message or text message, and they don't tend to question it any further. Okay, so sometimes we can't just come out and say no. So how do we say have no's? So imagine you're at a staff meeting and there's a new program that comes out and your principal says you need to include 45 minutes of this program into your language arts instruction time. Now you and all your teacher friends know that that is impossible. You don't have 45 minutes to fit that in. So how do you say no? You need to say no because it's impossible. But how do you say no? The first kind of half no, I call it the help me no. It's when you express your enthusiasm to getting started with the mandate, but you need their help on figuring out how to do that. You might go up to your administrator and say, "Oh my goodness, this was a wonderful training. I think it's going to be very powerful and I know my kids will love it. However, can you send someone over to help? Maybe the TOSA or maybe a teacher where this has been successful because I'm a little bit confused. In the meantime, would you mind if I just get started with this one element?" So what did we do there? We showed a willingness to do what was requested. We sought help, and because if we know that this doesn't work, whoever comes to help us will have to show us that it works or admit that it doesn't work. And we also gave a starting point, something that we can start with today. So, and usually it depends on your administrator. As long as you're doing some of it, you don't really have to do all of it. And the last half no is the I need clarity no. It's when you have figured out that whatever this new mandate is going to make you trade off something that you really don't think is worth trading off. When this happens, it's important to seek clarity. Let your principal know that you want to do this mandate to the best of your ability. And let your principal know all the things that you have going. And then a simple, "I want to do the best job I can. What do you suggest I should deprioritize in order to make this mandate a priority?" This type of no shows your willingness, but also puts the administrator on notice that she can't get or he can't get everything that he or she is asking for, that something has to give. So that's pretty much it. I encourage you to get into the spirit of no, to embrace your inner no. Remember, you don't have to be blunt and disrespectful and mean. By saying no, you take back your power and you don't get so frustrated and upset every time there's a request. And by holding your power and using the skills we went over today, you'll begin to not get so upset, not be so frustrated. Understand that you're not being bullied. Use the power that you have to make choices and make your work life more joyous. We've gone over a lot of ways that you can say no, and that will keep you from getting fed up. Now, there are reasons to be fed up, but being fed up over a request is something that we can handle. Like always, I hope this podcast resonated with you. I hope these are tools that you can use. And please share it. If you know someone that's having a hard time at work, share the podcast and let them know that there is a community out there that cares. Thank you for listening to the Teach Well podcast, where teacher wellness matters. And remember, in order to teach well, you must be well. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe.